Hello, I'm Jeremy.
And I'm Mandy. Welcome to the latest edition of our Talk Death video series, where you get the chance to ask experts your questions about all things death and dying. On that note, make sure to let us know about any death experts. Death experts. That sounded way better in my head. Let us know of anyone that you think we should have on our show in the comments below.
We're especially excited today because this is the first video since we relaunched the Keeper blog, TalkDeath.com. And we've gotten a lot of support from all of you since we relaunched, and we just wanted to let you know how grateful we are for that.
Thank you. We're also excited because today's guest, or should I say guests, work really hands-on with families to offer green and alternative end-of-life options. Without further ado, let's welcome Melissa Unfred, aka the Modern Mortician, and Kermit the Grief Therapy Dog. Hey guys.
Hi. Hey, Kermit.
Hi,
He's here.
Hi, Kermit. Melissa is a first-generation funeral director and embalmer, i.e. a mortician, who has over 20 years of experience in the death care industry and has been fully licensed for the past 5 years in Texas. Melissa is passionate about empowering families to care for their own dead and supports home funerals and green burial options as well.
That's for your furry companions as well.
Right. She is also a member of the National Home Funeral Alliance, the Funeral Consumers Alliance, and she's a supporting member of the Order of the Good Death.
Also joining us is Kermit. Kermit the dog is the first certified therapy dog in funeral care in Texas. Both Kermit and Melissa are pet therapy team members of the Dog Alliance. Kermit has also received national and pretty much worldwide recognition through a bunch of interviews and features. Before we get to everyone's great questions, Melissa, can you let us know a bit more about what you're currently working on?
So currently, I am in the process of trying to start my own all-natural funeral home for people and pets. I really want to call it more of a death care center because it would encompass so much more than traditional funeral homes do in America. But that is my goal right now, is to get that off the ground.
Awesome. Well, good luck to you with that because we need more of those.
This is by Britney Spears on Facebook.
The Britney Spears?
I can only assume that it is the Britney Spears.
No, it's spelled differently.
Yes. So she wants to know what steps need... Oh, hold on one second.
The dog said, "It's Brittany, bitch."
And so she wants to know what steps need to be taken for natural burial. I have it written in my death plan, but need to be able to point my family in the right direction. So what can I do?
All right, so if you're telling me that you already have this in your death plan, but you don't know where to point your family, we don't have a deep enough death plan yet. So great that you've established that that's what you want, but let's do the legwork for your family first. In many of our states, a funeral director is not required by law, and I like families to know this up front. I see our industry kind of going the way of the fancy wedding planner as families get more comfortable with doing it themselves. Now, how much of a percentage of the population is going to want to do it themselves has yet to be seen. I suspect very, very little. Funeral directors are still going to remain important to provide this service to families. So first, reach out to a funeral director, establish a relationship with somebody that is on board with what you want to do, or is at a firm or establishment that will care for you the way you're requesting to be done. Another thing about the future of the funeral service industry, I really feel like it's going to be about the funeral professional and not the building that they are attached to. You establish relationships in your community as professionals, and I think that your families are going to look to you rather than that big name in the future. So establishing that kind of connection with a funeral professional that will know your wishes, I think, is incredibly important. Secondly, where you want natural burial, let's make sure you have already selected a plot or a location for that. If it is further away from your home than within the normal serving area of that funeral home, what if you have to fly the body home? Do you have arrangements to get your body back to that location? Will refrigeration be needed? That's where the funeral professional is going to come in handy again. People are like, oh, it's going to be weeks before we can do a burial. We probably ought to embalm. No, we have this amazing technology now called refrigeration, and it works. It really works. So I tell families it's really okay. I've done one a month out. Like somebody was in Japan and couldn't get back for whatever reason. So establishing that plan to that amount of detail is going to be very important. Another very important step you want to take, maybe not a power of attorney, because that ceases when the person stops breathing in America. I would recommend definitely looking at an appointment of agent form. I have that on my website for families or friends to access at any time. For the state of Texas, an appointment of agent form designates a living person and a backup to be your decision makers for the dead body. It's not going to establish who gets your Xbox and who gets your TV and who gets your dog, but it's definitely going to help professionals be able to care for your body in the manner that you wanted to by designating somebody that can speak for you. I really recommend that form to a lot of our LGBTQ, and I butcher those initials all the time, to all the communities. Because if you don't want your family involved when things default to next of kin, by golly, have a backup.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that something that you've actually dealt with? Like any issues with, trans people or anyone in the LGBTQ community with, the families taking decisions versus friends or people who actually knew that person well?
Yes, I have seen that happen a lot. When I first moved to Austin, I was very involved in the burlesque community. My cousin was or still is a dancer for one of the big Austin communities out there. So I met a lot of people where normally I'm a very reserved inside kind of person, and somebody in the community passed and went through this exact experience where the family was identifying them as one gender, but the community that knew them and loved them identified them as a different way. It wasn't a family that I helped one-on-one. However, I had so many gay couples when one partner would die and they would be thinking, I have to be the one to make these next plans if they weren't, but this was before Texas legalized marriage for gay couples. They were left at the mercy of the next of kin, which typically defaulted to parents. And with that generation of the 50s and the 60-year-olds that were dying, that were in relationships like this, parents were defaulting to what they knew and denouncing some of those relationships. I can think of 3 in the past 5 years that were just heartbreaking to witness on the other side of the table from the actual partner.
So what would be your advice to trans people, to people within the LGBTQ community, to really ensure that they have the type of services they want?
My advice for them is going to be the same for every living being. Have a plan. We're not getting out of this alive. We're all going to die. Have the plan. Have the talk.
And this can start at any age, right?
Absolutely. So I had a 28-year-old reach out to me within the last year that wanted to prepay and pre-plan her funeral. She's not sick. She's just active and smart and had heard about this death positive movement, and it made sense to her. And that is so refreshing to have a younger person not, on their way out, as you might say. Wanting to plan these things and have a plan of action in place so her family didn't have to wonder. It's like constantly I'm having discussions with 50-year-olds and I want to shake them and I'm like, you are not going to be here forever despite how you feel. Let's have a plan. And it starts to make sense to them after a while.
So basically, if you want green burial, if you're transgender or a member of the LGBTQ community and do not want to be misgendered or have any of these issues come up, just pre-plan and do it right.
Yep, that's it. Just talk about it. Find out what papers you need in advance. Get it done. Get her done.